leave. I can't let you.
Alright, so Donna Beneviento, the doll maker of Resident Evil Village, and the host of probably the most terrifying part of the entire game, and some people would even go as far as saying the most terrifying moment of the entire series. Regardless on where you think that stands on the terror level, we're going to be looking at the character behind it all today, going over the backstory of the character and just some little bits of information that aren't really shown to you through the game. She's not as involved as Dimitrescu in terms of backstory. There's not a lot to go off of, but it's still quite interesting. Probably the more, backstory-wise at least, probably the more sad, but still quite interesting to go over. So we'll be going over all that today, so without any further ado, let's just jump into it. Alright, so the backstory of Donna is essentially she was the only child to her parents, and she was quite scared of other people, quite shy, quite kind of anxious because she had a scar across her face, so she didn't really go out much and kept to herself. Her father then made her a doll, which is Angie, which we all know of. It's the main doll that she carries around with her all the time, and she kind of grew to be quite obsessive over Angie and would only really talk to her instead of actual people. After her parents did pass, she spent most of her time locked away from everyone, building other dolls. It was kind of like, I guess it was kind of a coping kind of mechanism for her at the time. After a certain amount of time, she did come across and met Mother Miranda, who did kind of take her under her wing a little bit, and again did experiment on Donna with the Cadeau parasite. It did obviously bond with Donna quite well, but not good enough, because obviously, like we know, Miranda was trying to kind of find a perfect vessel for her daughter, and Donna, along with the other lords, are unfortunately not suitable. Reasons behind Donna not being the vessel that she needed was because she was quite underdeveloped because of her kind of how she grew up and how she was very separate from other people and her mental health wasn't all there. But either way, Miranda decided to keep her close as one of the four lords of the village. So now we've kind of gone over that, let's talk about her powers in general, and there's two main ones, to be honest. One is she kind of shared her kind of portion of the parasite across her dolls. She kind of strapped them up with weapons, and she kind of formed a mental bond with them, and she could control them and talk to them like they were living things. Something we've mentioned in the video prior to this is that original idea of having these dolls that came to life to attack you was in the original concept for Resident Evil 4, but that was all changed and they reintroduced it into this game with Donna being the one responsible, which is pretty cool. Again, using old content, very, very smart move. Her second primary ability was the ability to control plants, and they would give off a certain chemical where if you inhaled it you would hallucinate, and it would cause hallucinations from anyone nearby. Again, they were plants that were mainly kind of affected by the Cadeau, and yeah, they caused all kinds of hallucinations. Obviously for Ethan it was Mia, and this was essentially used to torment anyone who came towards the house. One thing that the game doesn't really mention that at the time is the Beneviento estate had a gardener, and she would use the kind of hallucination powers to show the gardener his past family, mainly just to torment him, which is pretty grim. But it's not something that really comes up in game. But even so, it's pretty unsettling that she can do that and decides to do that towards people. So as for her general personality, there's not really a lot to go off of, mainly because she doesn't really physically appear in the game a lot and doesn't really talk to you. I think there's like one line in the entire game, and it is the one that I put up at the beginning of the video. That's literally the one line I can think of that she actually says. But having said that, judging by kind of the hallucination tactics she uses to lure people into her house and stuff like that, how she uses people's inner struggles to kind of mess with them, in that regard she probably does come off as a bit sadistic. It's a bit of an intense method to kind of kill someone, a lot to drag them through before actually doing it, and I'm not saying that it's something she enjoys doing, but if you do it to everyone, then it kind of is a clue that maybe you get some kind of enjoyment out of doing it, which is, again, pretty messed up. But however, that always kind of is down to kind of perspective and how you see the character. Again, going back to the whole gardener incident, that is like the one file in the entire game, I believe. She advised the gardener himself to plant these hallucinative flowers near the grave of his loved ones, and you know, having them so close, he did manage to see them. But it is probably more than likely that she kind of lured him to her house in a promise to actually be able to be reunited with them again, and killed him there. So again, it is down to interpretation, but the fact that she kind of really does kind of go for the character and their kind of biggest mental fears and such is a pretty, again, extreme way to deal with someone. Another kind of loose theory around the character is obviously throughout the boss fight of the arena, when you are chasing Angie around the house, you can't see Donna there at all. Obviously, it does come to light when you do finally kill Angie and stab Angie in the head that it's actually Donna you've killed. And there's a lot of kind of interest around the dynamic of Donna and Angie. A lot of people seem to think that the personality of Angie is a different personality inside of Donna, so she has like a split between her actual self and the doll, which would again explain these kind of sadistic methods she uses to kill people, because Angie is a bit like that as well. But to be honest, a lot of what this character, and how this character, how she does things and how she kind of responds to situations, and looking at the backstory, it is all down to interpretation, because there really isn't a lot of information to go on. Obviously, she's had that traumatic kind of experience and, childhood that has caused her to kind of be a certain way. But at the same time, obviously, if it wasn't for Miranda and the Cadeau and stuff like that, maybe she wouldn't have gone down that path and been like this split, half kind of nice, half kind of evil character you meet in game. But that is essentially it for Donna Beneviento. Do let me know what you think of the character in general. Do you think she should return in DLC? Because obviously the conversation around DLC is that it will be about the lords themselves. Do you think the area that she's involved in is as scary as people say? What was your reaction when you saw what lurks in the house in the area? Obviously everyone has had different opinions on what, their response was to it, and I've heard many of them too. The whole area for me personally was just really, really cool, really, really well done, and really did give off that strong horror vibe that RE7 did, and I do want to see more of this in the future. Well, that's basically going to do it for the backstory of Donna. One quick thing I want to add to the end of the video is I mentioned it in a stream on Sunday already, and I did make a community post on Monday, so yesterday. I've set a Discord up for the channel, just for people to come in and talk amongst each other and talk to me, and obviously a lot of you guys do like discussing things in the comments or in live chats, and it's just easier for everyone to do it there. So I'll leave a link to that in the description. Feel free to join if you really want to. But yeah, tomorrow we'll do Salvatore Moreau. Again, not a lot of information, but still quite interesting nonetheless. And then we'll move on to Heisenberg. Then we'll do the Duke, and then we'll end it with Miranda. So thank you for coming by. Leave your thoughts on Donna in the comments below, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.
Stupid idiot! What are you doing to my cute friends?
It's over. Mia, I'll make things right.